As Iran's elites start talking openly about blowing up Trump's fortune and even hitting his palace, is Tehran now trying to get inside Washington's head as much as its bases? As Trump talks up military options while pushing Jared Kushner to the front of nuclear diplomacy, is he inadvertently putting his own son-in-law's Gulf billions directly in Iran's crosshairs? When senior IRGC voices threaten to obliterate Trump and Kushner's UAE assets if Iran is hit, are they signaling that this war would reach far beyond tanks and runways? As missile launchers line up from Iraq's border to the Gulf shoreline, is Iran building a literal wall of fire aimed at both US bases and Tel Aviv if the first American strike comes? While the missiles move, is Khamenei also quietly sketching out shadow successors and backup chains to keep the regime fighting even if the top tier is taken out? With America massing carriers, bombers, and stealth jets, is Tehran already activating multi-layered backups so that no single decapitation strike can end this confrontation overnight? Amid soaring tensions, Iran's hardliners are now openly threatening not just US troops but Trump's personal wealth and even his palace, framing any war as a direct clash with his family's interests. On February 13th, IRGC advisor Hamid Reza Moghadamfar warned that Iran's response to any US strike would not remain regionally limited, hinting at a far wider target set. Speaking on Iran's OFO channel, Moghadamfar said Trump's assets in the UAE and beyond could be destroyed, dragging his overseas business empire into the strategic equation. He went further, warning that if Iran is attacked it would specifically target Jared Kushner's personal assets in the UAE, naming the former White House advisor directly. Kushner has been helping lead back-channel efforts on Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile programs, making him both a diplomatic point man and, now, an explicit target in Iranian rhetoric. Trump has also announced that he intends to formally name Kushner as a special peace envoy, further binding his family's fortunes to the outcome of this standoff. Gulf investments from the UAE and Qatar helped turn Kushner into a billionaire in 2025, with his affinity partners fund managing roughly $4.8 billion in regional money. Moghadamfar argued that hitting those holdings would personally ruin Trump and Kushner, creating costs he claims could outweigh Washington's normal security calculus. Tehran has repeatedly warned Washington that if war breaks out, all US locations tied to the conflict, bases, ships, and key assets, will be in the crosshairs. The IRGC advisor boasted that Iran's forces are now at 100% readiness, insisting the country is far better prepared than it was during last year's 12-day war with Israel and the US. Recently, MP Amir Hayat Morgadam issued his own direct warning to Washington, broadening the threat from assets to the American homeland itself. He said that in a future war Trump's own palace could be hit, making clear that Iran wants the US to imagine strikes reaching far beyond the Middle East. Morgadam said, and I quote, "If the Americans attack, we will immediately give a crushing response. In case of war, our attacks may not remain limited to the Middle East. You might one day see Trump's own palace hit." Unquote. These threats are landing just as Washington keeps pouring more naval and air power into the Middle East, tightening the ring of ships, jets, and defenses around Iran. New York Times reports say Iran's leadership now assumes US strikes are inevitable and has placed its armed forces and allied militias on top alert status. Ballistic missile launchers are said to line Iran's western border with Iraq, positioning rockets within range of Israeli targets and US positions farther west. Another belt of launchers reportedly lines Iran's Persian Gulf coast, sitting within reach of major US bases and ports across the Gulf monarchies. At the same time, satellite images show more than 60 US attack jets massed at Jordan's Muwafaq Salti base, underscoring how tight the air umbrella has become. Analysts say that's roughly 3 times the base's normal fighter presence, turning Salti into a major forward hub for any Iran operation. Flight tracking data indicates that at least 68 US cargo planes have landed there since February 15th, rushing in munitions, spare parts, and personnel. Jordan is just one node in a wider US buildup that now includes 2 carrier groups, more than a dozen warships and hundreds of jets arrayed around Iran. Axios-cited figures say more than 150 US cargo flights have recently rushed weapons and ammunition into Gulf bases, filling up depots across the theater. Against this backdrop, the New York Times reports that Khamenei may have already shifted much wartime control to a trusted security lieutenant to keep the system agile under fire. In January 2026, with protests at home and talk of US strikes mounting, Khamenei is said to have turned to veteran insider Ali Larijani to coordinate crisis management. Since then, the 67-year-old security figure has effectively been running much of Iran's day-to-day response, from protests to diplomacy, according to the New York Times. However, Larijani is still not viewed as a likely formal successor to Khamenei. since he lacks the senior Shiite clerical status normally required to assume the role of supreme leader.